What's up, everybody? Peter Exodus O'Coffey here doing another episode of Three Things for the Month. Now, things got a little busy, so I'm doing 3 things for 2 months. That's October and November of 2023. So, I'm be focused on this episode because we're doing all 3 things are focusing on Miss Taylor Swift. And in case you missed it, Taylor Swift has been named Person of the Year by Time. And essentially Time said we're naming her Person of the Year because in this time of strife and division, she has been able to pull people together and do a little bit of unity. So, 3 things. We're going to focus on Taylor Swift. Number 1, the record companies now, when you sign new record contracts, they're saying you cannot re-record your music. So that'll be the first thing we discuss. Thing number 2, Miss Taylor Swift is now a billionaire. And thing number 3 will be revisiting Taylor Swift pulling her music off of the streaming services. So, on to number 1, record companies now are having artists saying that they will, or basically prohibiting artists from re-recording their old music. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, when Taylor Swift signed her contract, she did not control her masters, meaning, she still gets paid, but, controlling masters, boils down to essentially how the music will be used, whether video games, movies, commercials, and that kind of thing. And 2, it involves people covering your songs. Those are the main things that it falls under. So if you don't own your masters, you don't control those things. So, someone can come along and I think the third thing too is if someone samples your song. So someone might sample your song and, use offensive language and lyrics that you don't like. If you don't own your masters, you can't really, and your, record company's okay with it, there's nothing you can really do about that. So that's the main thing with owning your masters. Now, the interesting thing is Taylor didn't re-record this stuff. And I do a comparison with Taylor and Prince, and a lot of this has to do with just a change in technology. Prince had a fight with Warner Brothers in the early 90s and said, he threatened to re-record his own music. And actually, the only song he ever re-recorded was 1999. Warner Brothers said you can't. It never went to court. Now, if Taylor Swift can go ahead and re-release her music, I think Prince could have done it if he wanted to. But here's the kicker. As I said earlier, Taylor did not re-record her own music. And, let's dive into the technology for a minute. So, back, in the early 90s, with Prince and this stuff from the 80s, there were actual master tapes, and there was one copy, and guess who had that copy? Warner Brothers. So Prince was not getting that back. So Prince literally would have had to re-record every song. Taylor Swift, I listened to some of this stuff, and no change whatsoever. I guess she changed a couple lyrics and a couple songs. But 95%, from what I've been told, 95% of her re-released music is the same as her old music, except that she owns this new music. Now, here's the difference. there's a lot of digital copies of these Taylor songs. I mean, if she had different people do different mixes, they're going to have different versions. And there's probably, a couple of, could easily be 5 or 6 different locations outside of her record company that has, the final master version, so to speak. So all she had to do was figure out who had those, call them. Yeah, let me, put that in my Dropbox or in my Google Drive, and you're good to go, and you just re-release it. So that's the big difference, is that, I mean, people, when you work on stuff and work with people, and, send a song off to get, mixed or remastered. I mean, you take the song, you stem it, meaning, each track, so let's say you have, you know, a couple tracks with, different, the hi-hat and the track for the bass drum and a track for the snare, and the bass track. I mean, you take, those 4 I just named, you would, do a stem for each one of them, and then, hey, you know how Dropbox and Google Drive works, and then they just, upload all those stems and then go to work. So that's the big difference, that, Taylor had access to, her masters. And so, she could decide how, she wanted to make minor edits, which she did. And but Prince literally would have had to re-record every single song that he did. And at the time, I believe that was the Symbol album back. So maybe, Graffiti Bridge, that's what, 10 albums? And so that's the big difference. And but going forward, they're gonna, it looks like the big labels are saying you cannot essentially re-release your own stuff. So we'll see. I'm sure that will get challenged in court, and we'll see, but, from what my lawyer friends tell me, a contract is a contract. Thing 2, Taylor Swift is now a billionaire. So Sean Puffy Combs is also a billionaire. He's right around $1 billion. Looked at a couple of lists. I wanted to go off the Forbes, but Forbes did not have a list specifically focusing on musicians. Paul McCartney is now at 1.2 billion, which I've seen him a lot lower in the past. So I don't know, in the past couple of years. So I don't know whether those were faulty lists. I mean, Paul McCartney should be a billionaire because he, has a piece of the Beatles catalog. He doesn't have total control over it because, but he was able to buy in enough where they basically have to check with Paul before they do anything. And then Jay-Z is okay, let's go back. Rihanna comes in at 1.7 billion. A lot of that is her beauty products, makeup, and that kind of stuff. And Jay-Z comes in at 2.5 billion. Of course, Jay-Z is a businessman now and a musician second. So he owns tons of art. He has a lot of Basquiat's, Basquiat's. I mean, he could easily be worth more than 2.5 because he's a avid art collector, and he's not, he's collecting, the stuff that people want in their known quantities. So, Jay-Z clocks in at 2.5 billion. He sold his alcohol company and got, a large portion at 2.5 billion came out of that. So so at least with Rihanna and Jay-Z, it's not totally music based. Whereas Puffy and Paul McCartney, it's essentially music based. So, but Taylor Swift built her $1 billion on blood, sweat, and tears being touring. Because most of that $1 billion is not streaming money. Trust me. I mean, you don't make a lot of, you can go and look up, you're making a fraction of a cent per stream. And I think, Spotify billion streams equals $3 million. So, she's making that money on her tour, and on this massive mammoth tour she's on right now. The final thing I want to visit is, Taylor Swift pulling her music down off of the streaming services from 2014 to 2017. I appreciate, Taylor doing that. I also appreciate her fight for her masters because, she's not just fighting for herself, she's fighting for other artists. And, Paul McCartney is a billionaire, but he doesn't, he can't do whatever he wants to with the Beatles catalog because, he owns enough, but he doesn't own, a controlling interest. And, the Rolling Stones, they don't own most of their 60s catalog. I've been trying to do research to figure out when they actually start owning their catalog. I can't get a definitive answer, but it very well could be Exile on Main Street. It seems like a lot of, they were fighting the British government, about taxes, and there's a lot of relief, once Exile on Main Street was released. So I don't know if that was the tax issue or that was the issue of them finally owning the masters, and it very well could have been both. So, but yeah, so Taylor pulled she pulled it down because of low royalties, and she wanted to be able to price her songs differently. Well, she eventually put the music back up, and, as powerful as Taylor Swift is, streaming won out, and the current system won. But, still got to give her kudos for, fighting that fight. So yeah, had to, I'm familiar with Taylor Swift, her music. I certainly respect her as a businesswoman. Am I waiting on bated breath for her next album? No, but I respect what she does. She's a great artist. She works hard. She's very savvy, and she picks the right fights. When it comes to fighting the labels and fighting the fights in the music industry. So yeah, it's a short one, but hey, it is the year of Taylor Swift and Beyonce, and I focused a lot on both of them the last couple episodes. So, wrapping up, 2023 by focusing on the person of the year, Taylor Swift. So thank you for coming through. Got 5 albums of my own. My latest album, the 317 Volume 2, it's still floating out there on YouTube, but it's been disconnected. I did my own playlist, and that kind of went away due to YouTube. But YouTube has taken some other things away that they attributed to me that it's not really mine. Other artists going by Exodus, so they're shuffling things around. But hopefully they will take the 317 Volume 2 and hook it up with my other 4 albums. But all 5 albums, if you go on Spotify and Tidal and Amazon, they're all, clustered together, Apple Music and whatnot. So yeah, check that out. I'm also, I've written 2 science fiction fantasy novels and a novella, and those are available on Amazon by, whether you're into ebooks or whether you want a paperback. So, yeah, thanks for coming through, and I'll see you next episode.